Well, good morning. Here we are. It is Monday, December 16th. It's been at least 2 weeks. We missed one because you were going to go away and then you didn't. And then we just ended up, the world's just been awfully busy. So even just like rescheduling. But we're back. It's so good to
We're
see
back.
you. So let's start with the usual. And it's like I've seen you in class, but what have you been working on? And let's see where the conversation goes from there.
I've been working on a few things, working with the Triple Design Matrix book that I wrote with Ra, and that is at the designer. It's probably, I should get a proof in the next day or two. I've answered some questions she had, so I should get a proof. I'm working on another book that's going to be called Living from Soul, and it's stories from my life where I had critical times where I had to make decisions and how they impacted and empowered me for the most part, even the ones that were difficult. So I have a meeting about that book, which is a different publisher. And I am planning to do another 5-day experience. That will be January 13th through 19th. And the 5-day experience takes people through the four worlds plus the integrated world. And I start with spirit and then go to physical, emotional, mental, and integrated. And it takes about 15 to 20 minutes a day. So it's not a huge commitment. And it's all recorded, so it can be done anytime in the day that somebody wants to do it. And then in that sequence of 5 days, there's a question every day for people to submit on a Facebook group, and then they can win prizes. So we're starting that in January. Of
Can I ask a question then?
course,
The way you describe it, so because there's the four worlds, but then you said and the integrated world. Now, every day I read the cosmic guidance, and so it's the four worlds, and then there's the integrated. And I kind of see it interpreted as a blend. But do you see it as a different world, as far as like interpretation, or is it a blend of all four?
you mean the integrated.
Mhm.
When I say integrated, I mean integrated. It means that in each world, we bring certain consciousness to our day. And when we can have the parts of ourself not just interact, but enhance each other, that's true integration. And so I have written the integrated worlds with many clean questions, many suggestions for orienting and blending the worlds so that in the course of your day, you're living in a mindful way. And no one world runs roughshod over the others. Very often people get caught up either in emotional reactivity and it sort of takes them over and then they're lost, or the mental world takes their attention and they forget about their spirit or their body.
It's
Um,
interesting when you said emotional world, you became very animated. And as I've known you for a while, and I would describe you as fairly non-emotional, like empathic, present, all those things, but not emotionally reactive.
I am not emotionally reactive.
Yeah. So just even the way you kind of your mannerism there. I guess that's probably what most people will seem like to you. Like it's just they're coming in hot, right, with this emotion, and so just sort of kind of made sense when you made that face. Um, I'm experiencing so many people differently now. Like they're coming in, and I see the emotion. I see what's going on, and it's not impacting me at all like it used to. It's completely. I described it like uh, 3 years ago when I had my plant medicine experience and came home. So many things shifted that there were certain things that just didn't trigger me anymore, and it was almost like Nerf bullets bouncing off me, right? Like people firing shots, but it was just like doink, and I'd be kind of almost like observing it, like just ding ding. That's like regular now. Like that's just how it feels now. Um, so I think I'm mostly just kind of pleased about that and grateful for it. But it is almost entertaining now because I
Mhm.
remember being caught up in it before, and now it's just, it's just it would take a lot of work. Or if I'm emotionally respond reactive lately, it is really quick. It's very, very fast. It comes, I recognize that I possibly overreacted or whatever. I kind of make a mental adjustment, or no, make not a mental adjustment. I could feel myself observing, taking note, and then making a decision and moving forward,
Mhm.
and then not taking any of it with me. Like there's no residue of emotion either. Um, so much so even lately that if I leave a situation where it felt heated, emotionally heated. Um, when I leave, like physically leave by with my body from that interaction, um, I can feel it fall off me, like
Mm.
almost, and yet a piece of it will kind of follow me like a bit of not a hangover, but like a an afterglow, an aura afterglow of the situation.
And when the after impact of emotional reactions of other people, then what happens?
I think I use. I find myself taking stock quickly, like what happened there? What could I have done differently? Do I find myself checking in, like, do I trust this person? Where do I stand with this person? Like, is this a repeating pattern that's always happened and it's still happening despite best efforts? Or did we, and I say we, but like, yeah, did we just make some progress? And I feel like that's happening with lots of folks, particularly loved ones, that where there's always been friction points, whether it's my parents or my my immediate family. But um, yeah, just making significant progress, even with folks that are near and dear to my heart that have been challenging to live with at times or be with. It's
So are you saying that because when the other person is emotionally reactive, you don't engage with that reaction,
yeah,
that it seems to dissipate and not grab the two of you into a unhealthy relationship?
yes, definitely. And it's and those interactions are occurring less and less often. They're much more. I want to say the word use the word civil, but that's not what it was. Like it's always been pleasant overall, but just somehow easier, less friction, less less efforting to have conversation or get through a conversation.
Mhm.
Um, the, I think the last time we did this, we were looking at the astrology of myself and my father, for example. And I don't know if you recall, but like he had like three houses completely packed and then nothing else. Like it was just these giant triangles. And you talked about his life path or experience was all about values and like in that space. And I think I went and played cards with my parents that night or the next night, as I'd like to do quite often. It's how we get together and bond. And even watching the interactions between my parents, my mom's in the mental world anyway. My mom's a manifester, my dad's a generator. They adore each other, but they also just natter at each other. Like every sentence, there's some sort of thing. And I realized how much I was the peacekeeper or felt I needed to be, even just during a card game. I just and nobody asked me to. And it didn't help by me being the peacekeeper. Like whatsoever. And so I like lately I'm just sitting there. Uh I just recognize it's not me. If I get uncomfortable, I just breathe. And even when they're having an argument, they work it out each time. It's amazing. So
Hmm.
I was always, I think I was always interfering. Like it was either, don't talk to my mom that way or don't talk to dad that way. Like I was just always getting involved when I wasn't invited. And it's a really easy and simple fix, actually. Um, and then, before we started here, we were talking about the news and just how the world's kind of crazy right now. I do kind of get my news sometimes from my dad, but it'll be in the presentation of like, can you believe so and so did this? Or can you believe this person did that? And some of those things, I'm like, no, I don't believe that. Like it sounds absurd. So I don't believe that. But then that was uncomfortable at first because I was standing up for like, no, I don't actually agree with you on this. And and that would just get really uncomfortable and kind of bitey. And then, but now not so much anymore either. Like I think I had to be comfortable or get comfortable and and just not impose, assert what was I was fine with talking about and what was kind of gibberish and nonsense, and then we had a great time.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, that I mean that's a long way of saying I think the emotion between my parents is something that I picked up on big time. And just playing cards was a stressful affair in previously. And particularly even just eating like family meals. Um, uh, like in traditional human design, because I don't know how we would find it in the body, in the four worlds, but it described me as calm touch. And everything I read about that was like this jittery, I was just naturally this jittery energy. And if I'm around people and I'm eating or trying to digest my food and the emotions are high, the food tastes awful or it hurts. And for the longest time, I thought I was lactose intolerant, that I couldn't take dairy. And then it
Mm.
became really clear to me that actually I can eat a gallon of ice cream if I'm by myself. But if I am around other folks, and ice cream is the family's comfort food. So if someone's sad, out comes the ice cream, right? So that tough energy is already there. The ice cream just it goes down like razor blades. Like it doesn't taste good, it hurts, and then it's just fascinating. So um maybe we could talk about that a bit. Like how would we see that using the four worlds approach if I'm putting aside because calm touch I think comes from the whole PHS thing, right? Is that I'm not even sure if yeah, I guess that's my question.
Is what?
Well, calm touch is part of the four transformations in the mental human design stuff. I'm not sure how much of that translates to
I don't know anything about the PHS system
Okay.
or
Okay.
what Ross said. Most of what he said about health in the years we worked with him were not validated and were completely inaccurate, misinformation. So you have to understand that Ra's father wanted him to be a medical doctor. And it was a huge disappointment to his father that he was not. And so Ra had a goal of coming up with some kind of medical system and embarrassing the medical community as a way to enhance his own ego. And the PHS system was his solution to his inadequacy. And when I tested the things he was saying about the medical, every single variable I tested related to medical conditions did not hold up. So I have, after 2003, none of the embellishment of the system that Rod did was part of my education.
Right.
I did not communicate with him. I did not follow him. I did not participate in any way in the human design community. Um, my task was to stay away from them, according to Ra, and be scientific, whereas he was dumbing it down to a fourth grade level, his words, for the general public.
No, fair enough. I mean, quite often when I'm in ChatGPT, I quite literally ask it to, break it down to a fourth grade level for me so I can get back to basics. So I can sometimes appreciate the simplicity of it. I guess it was really helpful to read about that calm touch because it helped me connect dots. How would I do that? Or so that information helped me. The way it was presented, it worked for me. It made provide me with some awareness and provide me with some tactics.
Anything can bring awareness if you take it in and try it on and then modify it to your own conceptualization. So we can believe and make anything work
Sure.
if you frame it the right way. And really, the question is, what's the truth?
So if I was talking to someone about their energy map and their life experiences, I don't think I have a question there for you yet. I'm not sure how I want to put that. Um,
When I look at an energy map, I talk about the flow of energy. I do not ever make statements that come across, I think, as defining somebody. Their tendencies, their possibilities, their options, but I don't know what somebody's going to choose. And it's not for me to diagnose anybody. Diagnostic labeling is rather disempowering. So I don't use it.
yeah, and I really appreciate that. We've talked many times about how I almost feel like I'm deconditioning from human design, like itself. So it's taken some time. Um, and I have this conversation a lot with several of our mutual friends, students of where did that thought go? Oh, it's gone. I want to say that with several many imprints, energy maps, it almost seems like it's more complicated, right? If you were to look at all the charts, it's like, whoa, that's a lot of data. But one thing I've noticed, particularly with the channels book, is that there's lots of not overlap, but like there's commonality because ultimately it's still about empowering people with, in a lot of ways, really simple concepts that we've forgotten, like, hey,
Mhm.
breathing's a good idea, breathwork's good, meditation's good, all these things that people did thousands of years ago and now is a chore, right? Like, from what I understand, kings and queens did yoga. Like, it wasn't a chore, it was a privilege, or it was just what you did to maintain maybe your, I was going to say status, but like mental status, your confidence, all those things, right? And then I suspect, and I think it was for me too, previously, anyways, all the labels that came with human design um, helped in a world full of short attention span, which is where we're at with a lot of people, right? I mean, we're in a world of TikTok where if the video isn't funny in the first 10 seconds, you're already swiping and going to the next one. So to for someone to hear what about their energy flow, it takes you can't do that in 10 seconds. You just can't. So um yeah, so I really, it's just a long way of saying I appreciate you sticking the course. Just stay in the course. I think that's really important.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, I don't really have a question there for you. Um, well, I've talked a lot. So what else are you working on?
Um, well, I'm working on the 5-day experience. I'm working on my Living from Soul book. I'm working on my classes, the Paths of Intelligence, writing about them and planning to produce modules so people can study them without attending live classes. Uh, and yesterday we went out on a nice hike, found a nice area that I didn't even know existed in Mount Pleasant, uh, with lakes and pat trails and really nice. Uh, and um, I'm working on growing the library. So doing readings every Friday. Currently, my free readings are booked through the end of May, every week. So that's a lot of readings
Mhm.
and backlog.
Mhm.
Uh, but they're fun to do. And it's so interesting to see how many people are affected by the Pluto in Aquarius and the shifts that people are feeling. And um, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next month.
Yeah, let's think about that. I mean, without a doubt, so you said like it's interesting to see how some people are impacted by Pluto and Aquarius. I personally feel like I'm being impacted in a huge way, and being an Aquarius, it I've been thinking about that a lot this week. Of like, we're all in the same uh, astrological weather, but some of us are influenced more because of our actual imprinting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that was a new concept, you know? I think I always kind of went through life that everything's happening to all of us the same way at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, we're all seeing world events, but I just didn't, it's the more I get to understand and feel into astrology, the more fascinating it is and impactful it is on an individual personal level and at different times. Like if everybody had a stronger sense of astrology, that'd just be a good thing. Like astrology could be taught in school, not for um, predicting, but at the very least, having a sense of, like we get the weather report from the weather person. It'd be really useful to get a weather report with.
Well, I did do that for somebody's in my drive. I have no idea who that is. Um, the when I was doing the cosmic guidance every day for many years and producing calendars along with it, uh, different people are influenced by the astrological aspects differently. And I would not live my life by astrology uh, because we do have choice. And I've said many times, despite the Mercury retrograde warnings, don't do this, that, and the other thing when Mercury is retrograde because you're going to have to redo it. I've bought cars, I've signed contracts, I've done other things with Mercury retrograde, and it had no effect.
Mhm.
It might have an effect for somebody, it might not have an effect for somebody, but an example would be when Katie said to me, you'll meet somebody who's going to be important in your life. And I chose, because a voice told me to go to India, I went to India. Now, had I said, no, I'm not going to go because I could meet somebody and I don't want to meet somebody in India, would I have met somebody in my hometown? Maybe. Maybe there are multiple ways we can play things out. And it's our choice how we do it.
Do you think?
So
Oh, sorry.
I use the cosmic guidance as a interesting statement, but I certainly would not change what I'm doing based on a statement that anybody made, including myself.
Mhm. I'm trying to picture the calendar that you made because in my mind, I'm picturing 29, 30 boxes. So you've got very little space to make a statement. And how do you make that statement that applies to everybody? Because, like you said, everybody's going to be experiencing it differently too, right? So,
There were multiple layers to the calendar. There was, there were pie charts of type, and there were spreadsheets that showed what was happening in each world in each layer. And there were questions and statements and enough information that people could choose for themselves how to relate on any given day.
okay.
When there was a manifesting generator day in all worlds, even in composite, I found that those days the stock market went up.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Do you have some of those calendars kicking around? Like, could you share with us one sometime? Or I'd be very interested to see.
I could share one maybe now
Okay.
if I can find it.
And those calendars would have been kind of evergreen, like the Cosmic Guidance book, right?
Some of them.
Yeah.
let's see. They would be in noble sciences. Um, hmm.
While you're looking, we've got Raven's made a comment. Beautiful rising, Sean and Dr. Eleanor. Happy belated birthday as well. I miss you all last week. Um, kind of a question, kind of, and I think I already kind of asked it earlier, but Raven's question was, I have a question for Dr. Eleanor. Do we have more than four worlds inside of us or not?
Um, hmm. It depends on your definition of worlds, I would think.
Why did you choose the word world? Actually, I just kind of, I also find actually now that I asked that question, when
I
I,
didn't choose them.
oh, that
They
was,
are part of the tree of life.
oh, okay.
And the hold on, let me see if I can find this.
I find when I read the cosmic guidance in the morning, sometimes I notice myself either saying spiritual world or just spiritual. And sometimes it doesn't feel like the word world fits when I'm reading it. And as
What
I,
world would
I
fit better?
well, the word that popped in my head was mode. Like I'm in spirit mode, almost like you're in turbo mode or something. I don't know if that's even necessarily accurate.
The tree of life describes them as worlds,
Okay.
and they're dimensions of consciousness, and they are contained within themselves. So that gives it a different nuance. Um, I'm looking for the calendars. I have a whole folder of calendars, but I don't know where I put them.
Well, I mean, we can if you find it later, we could look at it next week. It might be even something to share in your webinar, even just as a webinar's on Thursday. I think they can call it a throwback Thursday. Do a
Um,
TBD.
Type calendar. Let's see. Oh, this is mm, interesting. I guess it's not. And oh wait, type calendar. DT. Huh, see if it's here. Oh, here's a calendar. Let's see. No calendars. I don't have. I am finding some of them. Oh, 2000. Oh, maybe this. No. I'm finding all the component parts of it, but the don't know where it is, so I'll have to find it
Okay.
because I have so many files.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious. I mean, and you stopped doing it because ran out of gas for it, or it wasn't being received well at the time, or what? I mean, they sound super valuable, useful.
It was useful. I found it extremely useful. Oh, let's see. Let's see. This is a maybe. Let me see if this is a calendar. Hold on. I'm opening something.
Oh,
Maybe.
I remember
Oh
something.
yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, here's one. This is a, this says master calendar intro final. So let me see, four worlds. Does this have it? No, looks like the template for it. Um, but I can show it.
Sure. So was it a like if this is the template, what was the output? Was it a PDF that people got?
Yes, people got a PDF. This is what it looked like. Can you see it?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So here were concepts. This was an example of the calendar where you could see each world, yellow, the blue was spiritual, emotional, physical. I changed the colors and the layout. So I explained everything. And then I talked about the four worlds and then how they work. And then this one doesn't have the guts. That was the template. And then let's see, final PDF.
And what time frame was that particular PDF for? That wasn't for a single day, right? That was for
That was, well, the calendars were for a month.
that was for a month. Okay, good.
And each calendar for a month uh, showed people what was happening for the month. And I did it many different ways. Um, they were very powerful. And why did I stop doing them? I stopped doing them because they were extremely time consuming to do. Um, I had to run all of the graphics and then analyze them and write about them. And not enough people were understanding them. Um, the Even today, when I'm teaching the four worlds, the human design people probably get about 30% of what I'm talking about because their mind is still locked into formulas. And I don't use any formulas. So
Hmm.
you could have a day where in the mental world, it's a manifesting generator, and in the spiritual world, you're a complete reflector. And how is that day for you different than a day where it's a projector day in the mental world and let's say a manifesting day in the spiritual world?
That's interesting. I recognize, I guess I always knew that you could be a different type in a different world, but for some reason, I think I'm just a manifesting generator in every world all the time. So I don't find myself
Um,
thinking that way.
no. Um, be aware that you have, we have all 64 channels, all 64 gates, 36 channels, 32 paths of intelligence, 4 worlds, each world in its own matrix, each matrix having transits that activate 64 gates, and we integrate. We don't live in a void. Your chart is a living being, not a frozen piece of meat. You know, if you have a piece of meat in your freezer, you have to defrost it.
Mhm.
Our matrices are never frozen.
Mhm.
They're always fluid. They're
Mhm.
moving. You do not have the chart you had when you were born. You have multiple activations and interactions, and everything's feeding everything else. So we're dynamic, changing beings, and we are living that. So to define yourself and limit yourself is completely disempowering. Everybody has every possibility within them all the time.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate that more now. It was interesting too, as you were talking about that, I kept thinking of Ra describing himself as a mechanic. And a mechanic is their job is to fix something, and it's always about what parts you have on hand, and it's a certain kind of car. So it's kind of like, it's again kind of simplifying things too much. Like, hey, I've got the answer for you. You're just gonna do this 23-point check, and because it takes away from all the nuance for sure. So yeah.
Well, think about what the truth of Ra's experience was. You've had numinous experiences. They come and they go. And you take from them what is useful. And you never get the whole, you only get a part. And then you make sense out of them in your life. So Ra was given a template, not any different than any psychological test. If you look at the structure and you think about how a human being functions and is organized, maybe it can tell you something about them, but maybe it can't.
I just agree. I don't have anything. I don't know what to say in reply to that. And I guess I don't have to either. But
You agree or disagree?
no, I totally agree. Um,
So, you know, getting stuck on an interpretation of a body graph, oh, this defines you. What
mhm,
kind of bullshit is that?
mhm. Yep.
Sometimes you're a manifester, sometimes you're a manifesting generator, sometimes you're a reflector, sometimes you're a projector. You don't always function as a manifesting generator, Sean.
Mhm.
Sometimes on a pickleball court, I'll bet you wait for that ball.
Oh, for sure. Actually, that's a new experience lately. I'll just share that now because it was paramount, or not paramount. It kept occurring last game, or last time I went. So 2 days ago. And again, I'm always playing at this one place called Kitty Hawk, and there's two courts there, 12 people. So it's, two against two on either side, and then some people waiting. And I have really started to applying waiting um, as part of my game strategy. If I wait to hit the ball to the very last second. The other person doesn't get any feedback they can use to prepare for the shot coming. And so, and I saw a fellow do that about 6 months ago. It was so strange. He would just sort of stand there and all of a sudden he'd just flick his wrist, and it was like startling, right? I thought, man, that's a great strategy. And so I've always kind of done it, but I guess I was really leaning into it the other day. So much so that my partners kept like making comments like, "Oh, I thought you were sleeping there," and so, but I was just waiting. So they would like go to take my shot because they thought I wasn't paying attention. And a couple of times they almost lost their hand because I have a very fast and powerful hand, and it was not a good idea for them to do that. Um, so that was a whole new observation, and also they seemed kind of annoyed that they felt they needed to step in, even though they clearly didn't. Um, and so then even just dealing with that new uh, behavior or response, because I felt like I was just doing it all the time, but clearly I think I've become even more relaxed, even more comfortable. That I really just seem to be like completely still until it matters. And it's surprising even my pickleball partners lately. Um, so I have to like adjust that a bit too. Like I don't know if I have to just move my foot so they can see that I'm awake or what it is, because I don't it actually happened a
You
few
tell
times.
them at the beginning of a game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. There are certain things that in pickleball you need to discuss with like people that are left-handed, because there's this middle lane, and who's going to take the shot in the middle, and depending on where you're standing on the court. And
I don't know anything about pickleball since I've never played. I've never even been on a pickleball court.
yeah, well, unfortunately, you're going to hear a lot about it from me because I just love it. It's giant outdoor uh, ping pong. Uh,
Hmm.
so they've repurposed tennis courts, used what's kind of like a wiffle ball, and I mean, I think it's the fastest growing sport of all time at this point, and it's partly because of, and thankfully it's I think creating connection for people. I'm playing against someone that's 25 and someone that's closing in on 70, and they are giving me a game because it's more lateral movement. It's not a ton of running, and if you're
Mm.
clever, you don't need to move a lot, and so it really is a game that like everyone in the family can play, like grandma right down to the kids. And I think that's kind of what's happening. And
Mm.
and for the most part, most people are having fun. There's little disagreements, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to resort to the violence that other sports seem to have.
Mm.
That said, there was a clip floating around last week or 2 weeks ago where some guys were playing, and you sort of touch paddles at the end, like good game, and the guy touched the other guy's paddle, and it fell out of the guy's hand. But while the guy went down to bend down to get it, the other guy kicked him in the head, and so it was caught on video, and it was like spread, and it was so unnecessary to do that. But I am seeing a few people like they can still get fired up even with this silly little game, and yeah. And yeah, I can being quiet emotionally on the court is proving to be a very valuable skill as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, it's just for me, it's such a amazing place to gather data on people. It's just really, I can't think of anything better where it's just like real time. So you're gonna keep hearing about pickleball as long as you know me. But
Well, that's great that you love it and it works for you.
mhm. Yeah, it's a
Have you
great.
gotten Wendy there yet?
No, I think I'm gonna get a family game together though. See, I've gotten to the point where I think she thinks that I would just like be competitive, and I wouldn't. I would like to just play. I can just play. I'm definitely capable of dialing it back. So yeah, I'd like to do that. Hmm. I don't have any questions.
Does
Very
anybody
simple.
on the call have questions?
Raven's been chiming in, mostly just commenting in context with what we're talking about. So not really a question. Um, Her last comment was, I have to remind myself of that because I get stuck with my projector energy, even though I have manifesting generator and generator energies as well. So I think this is in response to we were talking about different types in different worlds. Uh, hmm.
Start identifying yourselves, those of you who are listening, as manifesting generators and begin living instead of thinking.
Let me repeat that back to you. You're suggesting people live their lives as manifesting generators rather than thinking about their type in the different worlds so much.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
We live in an integrated world. Huh. It looks like Marvin is walking one of the dogs. I'm surprised to see them outside. Um, but Matt got groomed this morning. He looks so beautiful. He's such a beautiful dog. People stop us on the street and say, "What a beautiful dog." He's pretty spectacular, especially when he's clean. Anyhow, um, I'd like people to see themselves as integrated, as whole, and as having the capacity to choose their responses, the way they think, the way they move, and the way they live, instead of continuing to identify with labeling. Oh, I'm a projector in this, and I'm a manifester in this, and I'm. No, you come together as a whole. A baby at 3 months old is not segmented. Everything's working together inside of that baby and propelling them forward. So, what do we gain by the labels?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very freeing. I've talked before of just kind of like I don't like I still talk to friends that are in the design space and I can speak profile, but I don't think about it anymore. And I don't relate to it anymore. Um, and even like terms like neurodivergent, I think is this very dangerous term. You know, it effectively, from what I can tell, neurodivergence, the term is we don't know what to do with you and your energy. So we're going to put this label on it because then we can say, well, you're different and something should be done about you, because
Right.
you're a nuisance to.
Marvin and I watched the movie Oh God 2 with George Burns. We had remembered that it was really a cute movie. So we watched Oh God 1, which is John Denver having an experience with George Burns, who's playing God. And then Oh God 2 is about George Burns playing God again and coming into manifestation and showing up for a child about 10-year-old child. And nobody believes her. She says, I saw God. He talked to me. Well, what did he look like? Well, you know, he says to her, well, I'm dressed this way because I thought it would be easier for you to accept me this way.
Hmm.
Um, but the adults um, think she's diagnosable. And so you see all of this scurrying of the adults freaking out because this child said she saw God and spoke to him. And many of us get messages from God. And um, when we do, we're not crazy. The Holy Spirit lives in each of us, and we're all getting messages all the time. We don't have God manifesting in front of us for the most part. I did have an experience, a direct experience of God, and there was no way that anybody could tell me it wasn't God. I mean, there was no other way to describe it. And the level of awe and the level of energy that was there with me was incomprehensible. So we can all have numinous experiences. And it would be interesting for many people to watch this movie to see how closed-minded and unbelieving the mainstream mental world people are. Ready to diagnose and institutionalize a child because she says she saw God. And she wasn't doing anything bad.
I have a couple questions. Was it called Oh God or was it Oh God, You Devil? I seem to recall there was
No,
a movie.
no, it was
called
Oh
that.
God and Oh God too.
Okay. I feel like George Burns was also in Oh God, You Devil. So maybe that was the third one that they
I don't
did.
know.
Okay, because that's the one that rings a bell for me. But I've had a couple of experiences where it was almost like someone saw God in me. So I need to explain myself. One of those times was 2.5 years ago. I was in Baltimore at a baseball game. So Baltimore Orioles baseball game. So I was in this ballpark. And I was there with my buddy and a lot of interesting experiences that day. But at one point I went to go buy a hot dog. And the fellow that was serving me the hot dog was probably a man in his mid 60s. And um, I just walked up and I was friendly and conversational and uh, and I told him that the hot dog was delicious because it was. I don't actually really like a hot dog, but I was at a ballpark and decided on a hot dog. And and then he started talking about being in prison and like cooking brings him joy. And he just lit up in a way that I've never like it was just really, really it caught me off guard actually. He just seemed really excited and seemed to think that that was some sort of defining moment for him for
Mm,
me to just comment on this hot dog. Like I loved it. It was a very nice moment, but it was just so unexpected and out of character and I wonder if that guy would have said like I just saw God. Like did I channel that energy? Like was that the because we all have this sort of aura. did he sense that at that time? That's what he needed at that time. And I was the vehicle to deliver that. Because he almost, the impression I got was he didn't want to be forgiven or anything. He wasn't like repenting or anything, but it was like he just seemed relieved, really relieved. And he was like gushing about it was, and I've had like two, three other situations like that where I can't, it just catches me completely. It's out of context. Um, and I'm telling that just because I'm curious. Like, do people, and I guess the other part of that is you've commented many a time when I see you read other people's charts and you'll say, like, you're a channel, right? And I'm not actually entirely sure what you're looking at when you see that, but I'm assuming it's the channels between the throat and the ajna is where that comment would come from. And I don't have any channels between the and I have all of the body graphs, so right, it's not like I don't have it, but it's not present in any of my charts. There isn't a channel there. And I see and hear people like they talk about channeling all the time, and like I heard this, and this information came through me, and I just don't seem to ever have that experience. I just I definitely,
How do you know where to go on a pickleball court?
well, lately it is instinct, and it's different than before. I used to think about where I go. My game has really improved when I stand, relax, breathe. I even kind of imagine, um, if things get out of hand where I can kind of feel my energy, I'm getting excitable. I kind of imagine that invocation of the unified chakra where it's like within, without, and I just kind of like do this like triangulation in my head, and then I'm right back, and all of a sudden I'm able to play at a level that I couldn't do before. Um, without a doubt, this is something I want to talk about today, anyways. The last week, it seems like my skill level for drumming and pickleball has increased by 300%.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think it has. I think it's that I have confidence in what I'm doing that I didn't have before.
Hmm.
Um, and
What
particularly,
made the difference?
something shifted. I'm not entirely sure. I think it has been, well, actually I think I could feel my voice wanting to say I I'm not worried about hurting anyone anymore, for example. When I hit when I hit the pickleball, I was worried that it might ricochet and hit someone in the eye or something. I now recognize that I can hit so accurately that it's not going to be me hitting them in the eye. It might be them putting their paddle up and ricocheting, but that's not me. And for some reason, I'm not um, afraid of even that.
Hmm.
And I had this conversation with someone early in the week where, like, even with softball, I I could probably pitch even better than I do, but I'm almost afraid to give the batter a ball that could send the ball into the crowd and hurt somebody. There was
Hmm.
always this like someone could get hurt. And again, I can't control any of that. So somehow letting go of responsibility for outcomes where I just want to be present and play the sport as best as I can. And so something shifted or moved where I'm just, as I say, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of hurting anyone anymore, but I have no intention to hurt anyone either. It's just that I'm here to play the sport. I'm capable. I'm confident. Um, and so that I'm just going to play pickleball. And it's nice and quiet in that state.
Hmm.
Or it was every shot, everything I was overthinking. And I was also taking in feedback from people all the time. Like, that's something else I've noticed. If someone doesn't like a particular shot I've made or something, I can actually feel their disappointment before.
Mhm.
Somehow hear it, somehow sense it. And now it's like, oof, there it is. And then it just rolls right off me. Whereas before it just attached to me, it stuck to me like a sucker fish or something. And I
Mhm.
let go. So that's what shifted. And it's like I would say in the last week, confidence is the only word that kind of stands out. And it's kind of across the board. So I'm not sure what precisely did that.
Well, it sounds like you're trusting yourself more.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so you're not second guessing what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Mhm.
And that takes a lot of missteps out of the equation.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think about you've said a few times in class in the webinar about the 26th path and the importance of, working through that. And what I what I took from that or heard from that was um translating, interpreting emotional and physical intelligence, like the reactions. And it's I can say, I don't know if I'd ever master it, but like there's been some sort of vast improvement or mastery in recognizing what is and isn't mine, whether it's emotional or not.
Excellent.
Mhm. I don't know how to explain that to others yet, because it'd be valuable for everybody to
Where do
benefit.
you run into a difficulty?
Even as I was saying that, I was like, maybe it's not my job to explain it to anybody, I suppose. um, so I suppose if asked, I'd have the answer then. Kind of goes back to the channeling thing. Like, do I channel real time when I'm confident? Is that what
Yes.
channeling is? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, there are times when especially lately, and again, it's with that confidence, I will speak about, we'll be talking about technology or something, and I can tell I have an audience, and I can tell they're listening, and I can feel the energy rise or increase. Like I can see in their face, like, oh boy, something good's coming. And part of me is like, oof, this is exciting. Something good's coming. I'm not even sure what I'm gonna say. So yeah. And I think part of that is the confidence of not, even if they don't agree with what I might say or it doesn't vibe with them, I feel confident saying it anyways, because I know what I know when I know it.
Mhm.
And I'm not there to convince them. I'm just sharing what I've experienced.
Mhm.
And I'm careful with that. I don't could become much better at not sharing anything that I haven't experienced myself. Like I only want to speak from a place of authenticity. And I think that's what experience gives us, I suppose. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Neat. So what's in the 25th path? Give me a preview. Because I know you're working on it, but no, I like to be ahead of the class. So
The 25th path is the temperance card, and it's the path of trial or probation. You cannot ascend that path unless you have mastered the ones beneath it. And most people don't get there because they don't master emotional reactivity. And in addition to mastering emotional reactivity, you must correctly identify truth. And many people can't handle the dissonance of truth. So they fudge. And as soon as they fudge, they can't ascend the path. So most people are stuck in this lower triangle on the tree of life.
When you say ascend, or people that move beyond that, are they enlightened? Are they just more conscious? Um, do they, are we all trying to do that in every incarnation and some of us fuck it up and then you get a redo?
Mhm. We get
Okay,
a redo.
yeah.
And the path of perpetual intelligence, the 31st path, tells us that we are all light bodies incarnating repeatedly to get it right. So we come in, we don't remember our past incarnations for the most part, and we're operating blind.
I find myself a little afraid to move up these paths a bit. If one, where this is coming from is I've watched a couple of videos of people like not kind of documentary kind of things where someone has found some fantastic way to meditate and we're just about to share with the world something they learned and then they just vanish, never to be seen again. So I don't know if they died, if they were taken out, if they were um, literally turned into light and just embarked. So
Or they're just regular human beings who had an insight and shared it, and they don't have anything more to say. And the knowledge is so individual that I mean, what I was shown in my direct experience of God was that all religion is simply one person saying, I did X, Y, and Z, and I became enlightened. So if you do X, Y, and Z, you can become enlightened too. But what works for you isn't going to work for me, and vice versa. So each person is an individual, and the components and complexity of who they are and the variables that go into who they are so complex and so extreme that we can't give you a formula.
there does seem to be shortcuts that can help. And a lot of it comes from our
No
conversation.
shortcuts.
Okay, not shortcuts, but paths that benefit everybody towards that. And what I mean by that is it sure seems like Kundalini and or the idea of energy moving up and down the satsuma or the spine is valuable for everybody, right?
Mhm.
That's would be universal. And um, that I think I've shared with you this fellow does this book of wisdom thing, and he keeps breaking down how religions um, have taken what is effectively that path from the root to the whole movement of energy and put their own spin on it. Like even down
Mhm.
to like Santa, Santa comes down the chimney and ends up in the fireplace for the fire. Like it's just almost like there's all these clues saying like pay attention to this Satsuma energy.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's that's just been top of mind all the time for me. Like it's all day. Actually, I find myself lately almost trying to wring my back out or my spine out like a towel. Like really lately, there's like a tiny little knot that I feel like I'm working on, like right by the sternum there, but like inside. And there are times when I'm bending and twisting and I can feel like a pinch
Hmm.
in the middle of my spine. Like I feel like I'm that able to tweak my insides from the outside.
Hmm.
So much so that I've been like, um, certainly lots of stretching, but I find myself like trying to get between the ribs and my back and just massaging and getting in there. And I've got this vibro acoustic chair that's just like so great. So, I don't know why I'm telling you that other than it's it's been part of why I feel so good. The energy it's very easy to get that energy feeling in my hands from like Qigong, where before it would take 5, 10 minutes of kind of like working through it to almost like just turning it on like a light switch. Um, and the sense and the feeling and like the power of that, like the holding that in my hands.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And I find it interesting that my patterns of orientation are like this Sphinx, but also Maya. And we talked a bit about that. Um, I didn't know what Maya was at all. I'm also confused by why it's sometimes spelled Maia and other times Maya. And I don't know if that's on
No
purpose.
reason.
No reason. Okay. Um, but it seems like Maya is chi or prana or dark matter or neutrinos or orgone, right? It's what we can't see. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. So I just find it interesting that several of my charts, the pattern of orientation is this Maya thing, like awareness of that. So,
Hmm.
and all that happened, like I was already pursuing that chi, that life force, that energy. And I don't remember the first time I became extra curious about it, but it's obviously it's before I met you, but however, meeting you was the key to um, really digging in and getting to know it. So I'm yeah, again, it's just cool. I'm grateful.
It is cool.
Yeah. Okay.
We live in an energetic world and an energy body. And being able to identify that energy and live it and maneuver with it and use it consciously is part of what self-actualization is.
Mhm.
You become the doer of your instrument, one with God,
Mhm.
not separate from God, one with God.
Mhm. Told you to watch that.
Thy will, not my will, be done.
Sorry, say that again.
Thy will, not my will, be done.
Hmm.
Not about ego.
Mhm. Hmm. I watched that movie Cocoon. I think I told you I was kept being drawn to it. It's in light of our conversation lately, like that movie is worth a watch if you haven't seen it recently. Um, Super interesting. Do you know the plot of it?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. I mean, when these people are like unzipping their meat suits and they're this light body underneath, like that's how I feel. You know, like I feel like inside there is this actual light body. Um, and I like just even that movie, like I don't know why I was drawn to see it. And I don't even think I had seen it before. I think I just knew enough about the plot because when I saw it, almost none of it was familiar. I just knew Steve Gutenberg was in it and he was in Police Academy, so it was funny. That was about all I remembered. Um, So I just found it curious that like I was drawn to see that movie, and it seemed to be important to see that movie too. But where that instinct came from, or that notion, is the part that makes me a little bit crazy.
It's known as the Holy Spirit.
So the clues are being laid out in front of me if I keep following them. Yeah. Yeah.
Breadcrumbs
Yeah.
or pebbles
Yeah.
along the path.
Hmm.
You actually wouldn't want to use breadcrumbs, would you? Because they'd get eaten
Hmm.
pretty quickly.
Well, and we've talked about the Wizard of Oz before, and you've suggested it many times, and I think I said to you that something came in my purview a couple of weeks ago, which is for a while there I was thinking about like following, this following the yellow brick road, follow the path, and then something popped on my radar was like you're on the path when you can't see it anymore, and that's kind of where I'm at. So even the breadcrumbs, like it's not. I'm not even concerned about seeing the path anymore. I'm just walking. I'm just doing what I want. You
Well,
know,
that's good.
not harming anyone.
And are
Uh,
you making progress on what you do want to do?
I think so. Yeah, I have so many interests, and so there's been a lot of internal um it's pretty clear lately, but like for the last couple of weeks, it was pretty tough there. It was like, man, how can you be a pickleballer and a drummer and a design guy? And the thing is, I think I figured out how to put it all together. Like it feels like it's coming together like a, a complete thing, and it's my thing. Like, I don't know that there's going to be another person out there that is as passionate about drums and uh, energy maps and astrology and pickleball as me, because those three fairly different things, right? And that's what's kind of exciting about it for me is trying to merge those into something. And yeah,
And where's Wendy with it?
I'm sorry.
Where is Wendy with it?
She's on board. She really is. Like I was about to say, I'm gonna submit a audition. I was gonna say audition tape, but like an audition video today to a band that is fairly well known, and by all accounts, I should have no chance of even appearing on their radar. But not only am I so well suited for this particular gig, not only is it exactly the kind of music I would want to do, which is never doing the song the same way twice. There's not many bands that do that. A lot will, you know, they just sort of roll out the hits. This band doesn't really do that, and yet they have longevity and they have an interesting career. And their drummer recently left due to health reasons, and so they put out a call looking for drummers, which normally doesn't happen. A band of that status would probably use an inside,
Mhm.
right? You don't want the hassle. For whatever reason, they've put it out. So I've been agonizing the last 2 weeks of like, do I want to respond? If I don't
Why
get it,
wouldn't you
let me just,
respond?
sorry.
Why wouldn't you respond?
At the time, the last couple of weeks was um, fear of not getting the gig and being disappointed. Um, I had a couple of conversations with friends about it where it was almost like I described it as like getting like Christmas morning and you've asked Santa for something in particular and then you didn't get it, you know? Um, and that and then feeling bad about being disappointed that you didn't get what you asked for, right? So and actually in the conversation with my friend at the time, it was like I remember one year I really wanted this yellow watch for whatever reason, I was really excited with this yellow sports watch. And I got a set of cross-country skis instead.
Mm.
It was great. Like I cross, but I just, for whatever reason, the disappointment of being like, I was really specific. This is what I wanted. Even budget wise, I'm pretty sure they were in the same ballpark. And but for whatever reason, that disappointment of like putting so much energy around, uh, this is what I really wanted. And I can remember like leaving hints. Like I think I cut pictures of it out of whatever catalog and taped it on my mom's mirror or something. Like it was just that level of like this was something I really wanted. And I didn't do that very often. And then I got these cross country skis. And then sure enough, the first time we go cross country skiing, I go down a hill, crash into a tree, sprain my leg. So it was like, so they were just like, I never went cross country skiing again, basically. So it was like an old wound that I had to cut, like it kind of came up and I had to kind of just be like, I could be disappointed. In fact, there's actually no, I mean, I'm perfect for this gig. That's the problem I can't wrap my head around. It's like, how could they not see I'm perfect for this? So that's I've been wrestling with all week.
There may be other people who are perfect too.
Hmm.
And it's not whether you get it, it's that you took the risk to do it.
Hmm. Yeah. And that is kind of the realization I came to this morning was I needed to actually put this sort of audition, like actually play and put myself out there so people could see it because I'm not showing my abilities to anyone, so I'm not going to get any gigs. So like the reality was I had to actually push through the discomfort of sending them something just so I have something to send someone else and or someone else will pick up on my vibe and be like, there's like, so yeah, it's, I'm pretty confident. I was always confident before and was able to push through. And then the last couple of years, it there was just big roadblocks and
Human
such.
design.
Sorry.
Human design.
Yeah, I without a doubt, it there are elements of that froze me in my tracks. And we
Mhm.
talked about it a bit, like the whole idea of waiting for a sacral response for decision making. Like it's informative, but I know folks, and I was for a while, like if I didn't get a sacral yes, then it was a no, and then I did nothing. And I've already said, I told you before, like I had sort of written down my values, and one of them was freedom, and I had it at the top of the list, and my mind had weighted it as though, well, if it's at the top of the list, it's got the highest weighting. So in my mind, it was like 80% freedom. Well, if you're presented with a solution of like, do you want to do this or that, if if there's even an inkling of it impacting my freedom, then I wouldn't do it. And that was limiting. So, right, like that, listening only to that, like that mechanic of the sacral response it can be very dangerous when it's taken way too literally. And that is the other realization I've had in the last week is just how literal I took things, very black and white. It was this is how this is always going to be, and so it is, and that's not the case at all. I remember what I've experienced. I know what's worked in the past, but I'm actually still willing to do the opposite if it seems right at the time. So that was new. Yeah, yeah. Design really can stunt or get in the way of energy or progress.
Energy is fluid, and we all have all of the energy we need. So it's a question of aligning in the moment to what is right for you. And nobody can tell you that other than yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel very free right now. It's been a it's been growing, and I was suspicious of it at first. Like it didn't seem sustainable. And now I don't want to say locked in, but it feels comfortable and repeatable. Confidence feels repeatable right now, which
Good.
which is new. So okay, just think about time. And we've got we have a question here from Dirk, actually. Hi, Dr. Eleanor and Sean. I have a question about the layers upon layers and the four worlds and how consciousness looks like that way, please.
So what's the question?
I have a question about the layers upon layers and the four worlds and how consciousness looks like that way. Um, Sometimes Dirk's written English translation I struggle with a bit. When he talks directly, I understand what he's saying. Okay, well,
The dimensions are different frequencies, and we move through different frequencies all the time. So the worlds aren't mutually exclusive. They're inclusive. They're mutually inclusive. You cannot be in one world ever without being in the other worlds. So we all function in all of the worlds all of the time.
okay.
How you tease them out one from another is up to you. And how fluidly you live them is up to you. And some people are, mm, I don't want to use the word stuck. Um, some people organize their psyche in such a way that the mental world negativity takes priority of anything they know unconsciously about themselves. And it prevents them from living successful lives. You cannot be successful without spirituality playing a big part.
Yeah, if spirituality is kind of stamped out of you, which can happen, and at least for me, well, I gotta ask you a question. Emotional and physical worlds. I I now feel other people's feelings when they're nearby, like to the point where it's like, oh, I all of a sudden have a pain in my back, or there was a lady here that I did an emotion code session with using a pendulum and stuff, and this time it was like I'm feeling something in my right toe right now, and because I had already read about the metaphysical with the right toe, I knew what to ask next, and it ended up being exactly what she needed to hear at the time. I never associated with other people's stuff that way before. I think I was
Mm.
so caked on with barnacles and energetic shit that I really had no idea what it felt like to be me. I'd never,
Mm.
I had no remembered experience of that whatsoever. And now there's just so much clarity that it's like I feel good all the time. And oh, now my back hurts. Like, what the hell was that? And it's like, oh, okay, that's his shit.
Uh-huh.
And I'll ask him some questions and
It's gone.
it's gone. And it seems to help him too, just some.
Excellent.
So yeah, is that psychic? Is that how you describe psychic?
It's an aspect of psychic.
Okay.
I'm going to need to stop because I do have a 1:30 client.
Okay. Yeah, we've hit our magical hour 45 almost on the nose. All right, well then let's wrap it there. It was good to catch up. I really
Yes, good to catch up. And we are on for Friday at what time? We moving to 2:30 instead of 1:30?
if we could, I'd appreciate that. Yeah. So yeah, here let me I'll close the podcast off and we'll just catch up on that.